On the side of my house is a downspout. There it is right here. Just like every other house. And the downspout empties out onto the grass. And there is another one way down here at the other side of the house. Here it is here. And it too spills out onto the grass. In between the two, with all the rainfall, and particularly coming from this one, seems to be a little bit of a valley seems to have developed here. So what I'd like to do is take this downspout and extend it from here all the way to about here and avoid it having pool in this area. This particular downspout has the dimensions of, well, 3 inches that way and 3 inches up down. It's 3 inches square. It's actually 3 1/4 by 3 inches all the way up. 3 by 3 and right up to the gutter. What I want to do is put an extension here and send it out to about the tree. Except I don't want the 3 by 3 extension. It's a little too high. I'd like to have it 2 inches high, I'll make it smaller, by 3 inches wide. Somewhere in here, and I haven't decided where yet, I'm going to have to put in a reducer. Something that will change a 3 by 3 dimension, this 3 by 3 dimension, into a 2 by 3 dimension. So it'll be 3 inches wide, but only 2 inches high. I have some leftover downspout. This is leftover from the job that was done by the contractor who installed the downspouts in my house many years ago. And he left me this piece. My intention is to take this piece, 3 by 3, and turn it into a reducer. So it'll go from a 3 by 3 down to a 2 by 3. The actual dimensions of this piece, we'll take a look at it. It's actually 3 1/4 in one dimension, 3 inches in the other dimension. So what I'm thinking of is I need a form, something I can put inside of this, and then I'll sort of peen down the aluminum to make the shape of the form. So I thought to myself, well, I have some 2 by 4s. Let's put this one right here. I'll cut it in half. Okay, put the two on top of each other. That should give me at least a 3 by 3 or a little bit more or less. So I've done that already offline. Where is it? Here it is. So this is though just part of this 2 by 4. Cut it in half, 6 inches long, and I glued it together. And I did a little bit of shaping such that it will fit inside of this 3 1/4 by 3 inch downspout. Let's see, I get this right. There we go. Now what I need to do is do a cutout on the wood and make a form such that I'll be able to make a reduction to 3 by 2. Let me put this back in here. The way I have this drawn, you were there a second ago. Yes, I made a really tight fit. There we go. I really can't see it much, so I'm going to give it a darker color. The idea is, now that I have the actual part, I got my form in here, going to do a cutout along the bottom here, something like this. Cut out this piece on the top, and then somehow mold this one into, well, that 2 by 3 section. Well, that's the plan. After a couple of minutes of hand tools, this is the general shape I was talking about. So I'm going to go from 3 inches by 3 inches, well, 3 1/4 by 3 inches, down to 3 inches by 2 inches thick. So I've completed the form. Here it is. I've rounded the corners. Now the idea is to insert this inside of this downspout. And we'll go this way. And then bang it down such that it conforms well to the form. So I can do a conversion between 3 by 3 to 2 by 3. I need to square up this end right here. And I've got a carbide tip blade on my table saw. I'm going to do that here using the carbide tip. However, this, because it is metal that I'm working on, I'm going to have to use some safety. That looks good. There it is. Good enough. Don't do this at home unless you actually know what you're doing here with your equipment. Cutting metals on a table saw is not recommended. However, it is a much softer metal than the carbide tip, so I can do this with caution. So I need to cut a small piece, this length right here. And I'm going to use a hacksaw to do that. I've already marked how long it needed to be. I'm going to simply use a hacksaw and cut it to length. And here it is, all cut. The idea now is to take my mold, put it in here, and you can see there is a gap right there. I'm going to peen down this gap such that it rests on top of that mold. The idea is to make this ball to 3 by 3 into a 1 by 2. How am I going to do this? I need a ball peen hammer and peen this down. Back in the days of Associated, we used to do shot peening, and I know what shot peening can do to a piece of metal. It will bend it. So if I use a peen hammer here, I can probably do it. I don't have one, and I'm not going to spend the money to buy one just for this one occasion. On the other hand, I do have, this is an old tack hammer that I made back in machine shop in grade 10 machine shop a whole long time ago. It's got a small enough head on both sides. I can probably use this as a peen hammer and start banging away. Now, let's see how it works out. I'm going to attach the wood to the downspout using some screws. I've put 2 in already. I'll just need a third. Put it down here. Don't always need power tools. Simple hand screwdrivers sometimes works just as good. Okay, I'm ready to go and see if I can peen this down to that size. So I'm not going to bang this on top of my table saw. That'd just be foolish. It's going to be noisy. Put on one glove. I have an anvil here. I'm going to do all the peening on this anvil. a little at a time until I get the mold that I'm looking for. Or the shape that I'm looking for, I should say. You know, it's looking pretty good. Giving me the shape that I need. Going to require a little bit more work. I'm just taking it apart right now. And there it is. 3x3 reduced to 2x3. Will it work? We'll soon find out. So I did a dry run install. There's the 2x3 by 10 feet long. There's my original 3x3. And my connection, well, it's going to require a little bit of work because, well, the angles are obviously different. They're slightly off, so I'll have to make a modification there. And all of this then will be sort of sloping all the way down. But right now there is rain in the forecast. And in fact, it's raining as I speak. So this will just have to be left for another day. But in the meantime, I'll see how this works. I wasn't happy with the connection being here. So I thought about it some more, and I decided to put in a different elbow. I removed the original elbow that was there, and I bought this flexible elbow. Here is my reducer. You can see that the eave trough itself is 3x3 inches all the way down to the reducer. Hence the reason I made it. So it's 3x3 and it changes down to 2x3. And this elbow is a 2x3 flexible plastic elbow. And it comes down and it's connected to a 2x3 pipe. And the original one ended about here, and the rest of this was a pan where the water flowed on top of. You can see it's doing some damage to the grass. And now the pipe extends a bit further, about 2.5 feet. A little bit further than the original one, which stopped about here and created that trough. So this looks good for the time being. I'm gonna go with this. Maybe in the spring I'll look at it again. But in the meantime, it looks neater where I have the reduction here. And the whole pipe is 3x3, 3x3, then down to 2x3 and 2x3. So I have that little bit shallower height.